Good morning, YouTube. It is, Thursday, May 7th, 2015. So, I was reading, seems to be the motive of my videos lately. I was reading more about Jade Helm and what they are actually practicing for. And the bottom line is if they're using SF forces and Delta and Green Berets and so on and so forth, they're practicing for snatch and grab missions. Quick in, quick out, hit and run. They are practicing for an asymmetrical war. And I figured I would do a little video and talk a little bit about that. When the government or a government becomes oppressive to its people, or its people led by revolutionaries wish to overthrow a standing government that they view as oppressive, revolutions, not in the 1776 form, I'm thinking more like Cuba or Vietnam, the Viet Cong against the French, and then the Viet Cong against the United States. The way the warfare is developed, the people are not going to go toe-to-toe against a high-tech, fully mechanized, superior fighting force. You're just not going to do it. You can't. And proponents of the Second Amendment, and I being one of those proponents, would say that the Second Amendment was put into the Bill of Rights as a protection against tyranny. Of course, your mainstream sheepdogs, or I'm sorry, mainstream sheep, would have you believe that it's for hunting. If you're watching my channel, you know better. So, the founders of the country realized that there would be a possibility at some point in this country when our own government could become oppressive. Some would argue that we're at that point. Some would say, this is great. This is the liberal utopia. Whatever your view on it. The purpose of this video, in my mind, is more or less to discuss asymmetric warfare, and if a war was to be fought in the United States in the form of a restitution of the Constitution, a restoration of the Constitution, how would that war be fought? Well, in essence, in reality, whether you people want to admit it or not, we're already fighting it. The war is already being fought. It's an info war, it's a propaganda war, it's an ideological war. The people and the rights against the elitist powers that be, corporate fascists that occupy our government in every aspect of the government, from the Supreme Court to the Congress to the executive, all three branches, local, state, federal, all occupied. The people right now, as I see this, are fighting back more military vehicles on a flatbed. That's in Ohio, by the way, so if you're wondering. Anyway, the people are fighting back the best way they know how, and it's mostly through the internet right now. And it's the the relaying of ideas. It's what I do here. It's what Prepared Mind does. It's Freedom Fighter 2127. It's, you know, Professor Doom. It's so on. So everybody's conveying these ideas and passing along information, and we're fighting that war without bullets. It's a Cold War right now. We are fighting a Cold War. The revolution in this country has already started, and the powers that be recognize this. They recognized it a while back. It started back in the 90s, originally, in my opinion, and was quelled with the Oklahoma City bombing. When a lot of patriots, after the assault or during the assault weapons ban, were pissed. And, well, my opinion is the government pulled a false flag. In my opinion, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. In my opinion, Oklahoma City was a false flag. There's documentation out there. Go look it up if you don't believe me, which is fine. And I'm not gonna get into that argument. Anyway, the point is, right now, I believe that we're already fighting a war. And the people on YouTube, the people that are going to rallies, the people that are, you know, holding events, the Tea Party, you know, those people are foot soldiers in this war. The elite recognize this. So, the purpose of Jade Helm is for when this war goes hot. Now, whether they choose to take it there, that's entirely on them. And they'll be the ones to make the first move. Anytime, and I guarantee this, if there is an issue, if there is an attack, if there is a false flag, they will try and blame the patriot community. They will try and blame right-wingers, and they would, as the leftist little commie trolls like to say, right-wing nut jobs. You little bastards. I hate hearing that. I'm not right-wing or left-wing. I'm no-wing. Get it? N, no, or K-N-O-W, no-wing. Anyway, so they're training for when this thing goes hot. Notice I said when. And the idea behind Jade and the computer program is quick acquisition and fluid logistical movements of assets in a certain grid area. So if you have, say, a battalion in a city and an asymmetrical war is going on, you need to understand and know what areas are considered active areas inside that grid and what areas are considered safe areas. So you have green zones, red zones, so on and so forth. Most of you are familiar with this. What Jade does, it is a computer program that allows them to with fluidity move these assets to that area to react to hotspots. Now, the idea behind that is when they can move troops or assets, drones, troops, you know, whatever, into that hot area or into that active area, they can do roundups of people, isolate, capture, interrogate, and then kill. To extract information of who is behind a certain action. So that is essentially the purpose of Jade. That is what they're training for. It's to be able to use this program, to be able to use the Jade program, whether it's Jade Parka, Jade Helm, Jade whatever, it's to be able to use it in a manner that's going to expedite the mission. And that's all it is. It's about expediting the mission. Now, what is their mission? The mission, obviously, is to quell civil unrest, domestic disturbance, and asymmetrical warfare. They know, as well as everybody else, that the Patriots cannot go toe-to-toe with... We can't go toe-to-toe with the military. I would argue that we can't go toe-to-toe with the UN. Even though they are a lesser fighting force. They still have a mechanized army in the aspect of heavy tanks and armored APCs, and they'll have air cover. And air superiority is huge. I mean, when you have air superiority, it gives you freedom of movement. Without it, your troops are... The freedom of movement is restricted. So, how would a inferior force fight a war or fight a modern mechanized army? And I'm talking about it in the 21st century, right now. I'm going to go on the hypothesis that the shit has popped off and we've gone hot. Obviously, they already have our names. They know who we all are. They know where we live. They know where we work. They know everything about us. And we all know, and if you're watching this channel, odds are you're on one of those lists and you're marked too. I'm pretty sure I am. Not because I've done anything wrong, but merely because I love my country and I love the Constitution. I love being free. I love the idea and concept of freedom. They hate that. The powers that be hate that. They want obedient little worker drones. Slaves. That's exactly what they want. They want slaves. And I'm not into slavery. Whether it was 400 years ago or whether it's now. So, how would that war be fought? Obviously, a lot of us would have to go into hiding. We would have to disappear. Cities would pretty much be off limits for people like us, in the aspect that with all of the facial recognition software, with all of the new, with the just deluge of tracking and software and computer bullshit that is installed in cities, you know, closed circuit cameras on every traffic corner, you know, TVs that can listen to you. You would pretty much just have to get rid of all the electronics. Be gone. Bummer, because I really kind of dig YouTube and Facebook. Anyway, we would have to be gone. So, how would you fight back? Well, here's the key. We're not fighting foreign troops. We'd be fighting people on our soil. Or actually, we would be fighting foreign troops at a point, but initially, the cannon fodder would be local police forces. This is why they've militarized the police forces with 1033, giving them military hardware. So we're going to be fighting them, the cops. And as demonstrated here recently, the cops don't have much qualm or quarry about killing citizens. Not all. Not all. Some. And those cops, people know who those cops are. The elites know who those cops are. Anyway, but they will be cannon fodder. They'll be the first wave. Which goes back to my whole thing about you better think twice about that, Mr. Law Enforcement, Johnny Officer, man. You got as much to lose as we do. Anyway, the way that this war would be fought, at least in my mind, is I can kind of see it going down. We can't kill helicopters. We don't have the ability to shoot down helicopters immediately. We don't have Stinger missiles. We don't have AT-4s. We don't have the hardware we need to take on heavy mechanized equipment. But what we do have is the ability of surveillance, reconnaissance, intelligence gathering. We find out who the tank mechanics are. We find out who their families are. We find out who the chopper pilots are. We find out who the mechanics that work on these pilots are. We understand the supply lines for these areas. You know, it takes a lot of gasoline to run an Abrams tank. It takes a lot of fuel to fly a fighter jet. And we have the ability to stop that. And that's how this war would be fought. You can't kill the chopper, but you can kill the pilot. So, basically what I'm saying is, and there's a lot more to go into it with this, from the aspect of asymmetrical warfare. Obviously, you can read so much about it to understand how it would be fought and how it would happen. The bottom line is, and it's nauseating to me because the thoughts that I have in my head about how this would be happening and the kind of the visuals that I have in my mind are disgusting in the aspect that they're sad and killing people, and the attrition and bloodshed that would be involved is just horrendous. And the worst part about it is you know, and like I said before, I'm praying that we come through this unscathed and nothing happens. But I don't know. I can't. I don't know. You know, I just don't know. So the bottom line is it would be a bloody, atrocious, horrible, horrible war in the aspect that it, you know, torture on both sides, capture for extraction of information, you know, outright assassinations. I'm talking local government all the way to federals. It would be horrible. Horrible. And the media would, the propaganda, I would say 90% of the American citizenry would call us terrorists and would be against us and so on and so forth, because they're all brainwashed sheep and they are more concerned about football. I guess the biggest rule that I would say, that would probably be the Achilles heel, and honestly I really believe it would be the Achilles heel of the Patriot movement, is the resistance to using terrorist tactics in the aspect of collateral damage. Absolute minimization of collateral damage. The elites and the government don't give a shit. They'll kill American citizens and they don't care. It doesn't. But the Patriots would do everything within their power to reduce and not have collateral damage. And I think that would be the key, is it's protection and defense. So these are thoughts to think about. I'm gonna wrap this video up. These are just things to think about, and you know, do some research on asymmetrical warfare and tell me what you guys think. I know there's a lot of people out there that have more knowledge of it than I do. I have a little bit of knowledge and some experience, but in training for it. But beyond that, you know, there's a lot more people that have a lot more. So if any of you guys know more than I do, hey, come on and put it in the comments, and you know, let's get the discussion started. So on that note, remember, knowledge is something they can never take away from you. Kaz out.